The Chicago Bulls get a win, their third in a row against the Charlotte Hornets. But shortly after that win, they get news that Zach LaVine will now be sidelined 3 to 4 weeks, which has led to speculation that maybe Zach LaVine has played his final game in the Chicago Bulls jersey. We're going to talk about all that, plus how well exactly have the Chicago Bulls been playing per the statistics without Zach LaVine. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly than that, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every single social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And so the Chicago Bulls get a win against the Charlotte Hornets, their third win in a row, a winning streak that we just have not had in the season. And it wasn't pretty. I just want to make it clear, this game was not the game that the last two were for the Chicago Bulls by any stretch of the imagination. They had glimpses of that and quarters of that, and they won every quarter of this game, right? But they didn't end up losing the fourth quarter, albeit by 8 points, and that was a fourth quarter that looked really ugly. And in a lot of ways, it was a fourth quarter that the Bulls usually would have let themselves completely get away from the game in. They did not do that in. They were able to hold on to the victory. But, sloppy play from the Bulls in this game, the 16 turnovers. At time, there also was a lot of DeMar DeRozan, the players watching DeMar DeRozan going to work again rather than moving without the ball. So we didn't have kind of that off-ball movement that has really been a big thing for the Bulls over the last 2 games prior to this. And, you really want to see the team get back to that because that is when they're most dangerous, right? And, a part of that is as well, like DeMar DeRozan's 20 shots, inefficient 20, 8 of 20 from the field. He ends up getting to the free throw line 14 times, hitting 12 of those for 29 points. Nikola Vucevic, though, this was a game where, especially with Mark Williams out in this game, seeing Nikola Vucevic play when this team just did not have a lot of frontline depth, right? They still had Richard starting in place of Mark Williams. This is a guy who's still 7 feet, 245 pounds, I believe. So still a big body there, right? But outside of that, it was all little guys up front and down low for the Charlotte Hornets. So the Bulls did feed Vooch. 17 shots for Vooch. He goes 8 of 17 from the field, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block for 20 points. So it was good seeing Nikola Vucevic play this way, especially coming into this game. We talked a lot about can Vooch and DeMar both have big nights, and they did in this one, right? But Coby White going only 6 of 16 from the field, but chipping in 9 rebounds, 5 assists in this game, 19 points. That was the big thing in that. And he hit 3 3-pointers, breaking a record for the Chicago Bulls of most three-point makes in a row in games. So shout out to Coby there. He hit the big shots, right? Didn't hit a lot of them, but he hit the big shots, and that was important for Coby White. Also getting to the free throw line solidly, 4 or 5 from the three-point line was him. Alex Caruso chips in 12 points. He got dinged up. I think he got hit in the thigh. I would not be surprised if he's going to be out Friday, even with the news to Zach LaVine. But he also chips in 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks as well from Alex Caruso. And then Patrick Williams, who didn't really step up scoring-wise like he had been the last few games. Again, only 6 shots from Patrick Williams. Part of that is because the ball just wasn't moving around as much, but also we weren't moving as a team as much off the ball. 8 points from Patrick Williams, but 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks from Patrick Williams. He was finding a way to get aggressive, make his presence felt in this game, and that was big for the Chicago Bulls as well. Like I said, this is not one of those kind of statement wins like the last 2 have seemed like with the play style and just the team just executing well and having heart. The execution sucked in this game. The Bulls played sloppy. They did play with energy. It was good that we still got the win, and it's important that you do find ways to get wins in games that necessarily don't go the best way. An ugly win is still a win, and sometimes those are the wins that help build character and identity. We got to see Julian Phillips, the rookie, early in this game. He only ends up playing 6 minutes. We even got a little Dalen Terry time in this one as well. But not a lot of big production off the bench. You got 8 points from Ayo Dosunmu. You got 7 points and 9 rebounds from Andre Drummond coming off this bench, and then 6 points as well for Torrey Craig. So there you go with that one. Javon Carter only 11 minutes played. He was 0-1 from the field. Didn't really 3 assists, 1 steal. Made some plays defensively, but didn't really, he only took one shot. So, there you go on that one. So, that's kind of the game for the Chicago Bulls. But the biggest story coming out of this isn't going to be the Bulls win. It is going to be the play of Nikola Vucevic. It is going to be Kobe White breaking a record. It isn't going to be, any of that. It's going to be what came out shortly after the game, and that was Zach LaVine, the Bulls announcing via their app. It came out on the Chicago Bulls app before it came out from Shams or Woj or anybody. And that's how you know this was an internal thing and maybe even a time thing that was planned. But it was announced that Zach LaVine is going to miss 3 to 4 more weeks with his foot injury, now putting into question, is he ever going to suit up for the Chicago Bulls again? A lot of people don't think so. And so when you look at it, the kind of the timeline of this, just the day before this came out, Billy Donovan just went on record to say that Zach LaVine was progressing faster than they expected, and he was more optimistic about a return. Then a little over 24 hours later, you're now saying he's going to miss 3 to 4 more weeks. And also they put in this: he will not travel with the team on Friday. He will speak to reporters on Thursday, which is weird enough because when's the last time you've seen Bulls players that also are injured speaking with reporters? And I know they're going to have practice, shoot around, whatever it is, but it's just the timing of all this has now led people to wonder and think, is this now them sitting basically Zach until the trade goes down? And, I talked a little bit, I dropped an emergency episode, so I talked a little bit about the reasons why, if they are moving him, this makes sense. A, they could have a deal in place already now in communicating with teams that they've, talked to over the last few weeks. They could have the framework of a deal in place, but the pieces of that deal either can't be moved until mid-December, which the 3 to 4 week timeline kind of points more so to that being maybe a rookie is involved in that deal, and that pushes it towards that January 15th date. So that's something to look at there. And if that's the case, it makes sense. Then also when you look at it, the Bulls may very well say, hey, we want to see this roster. We like the way that they're playing together. We don't want to disrupt the groove that they're kind of getting into, the roles that they are now starting to naturally fit into. We don't want to disrupt that with bringing back Zach LaVine, and we know the writing's on the wall for Zach LaVine. So while they may not have a deal in place now, they just don't. They want to remove that distraction from the team, especially hearing that he will not be traveling with the team either. So that's kind of the two more prominent ones. One outside of it as well is that they just look at it and say, hey, Zach LaVine's value, the trade market, we've already heard that it's low. It's not a big one for him. Maybe they just say, hey, it can't really get any lower via the deals that we're hearing. Why risk him getting injured, right? And, that's another aspect of it as well. But when you just look at how this all has happened, right, it just points towards it being something that, they're just officially sitting them out until the trade gets done. Now, if they already have a trade in place, cool, that 3 to 4 week timeline makes me think that a rookie is going to be involved. And maybe, this is speculation, not reporting for me, so I want to be clear on that. Maybe that rumored LA deal is the one that the Bulls are taking, because a rookie in Jalen Hood-Schifino would be involved in that deal, and then so maybe that's the case. Or even the deal that we talked about yesterday on the bonus episode with the Toronto Raptors involved Grady Dick, which is another rookie that then could not be traded until January 15th either. So, the fact that the time period kind of coincides with that January, puts it right around that January 15th date, I think that it may point in the direction that, Zach LaVine's not going to come back. Maybe a rookie's involved in that, and the Bulls just don't want to risk it. And so we have a voicemail on it too, so I'll go into a little bit more in detail there. But then also there's the more concerning part, right? And the part that I did not talk about on the emergency episode is, but what if this is legit? What if this is a legit injury, right? And again, outside chance, but what if this is a legit injury that really does have Zach LaVine sidelined 3 to 4 weeks? That is the worst case scenario for the Bulls. And the reason why I say that, if this injury is real and it's not just the Bulls sitting Zach LaVine out, that then the questions already around Zach LaVine's ability to stay healthy, having a semi-major injury in every season of the last 3 years for sure, maybe that puts more into question of, will the Bulls be able to move him by the deadline? So I do hope that it's one of those other scenarios in which the Bulls are either, sitting him to the side, they don't want to risk him getting hurt, or they already have a deal in place for him. But if this is a legit injury to where he really can't play basketball for 3 to 4 weeks, that may be the worst case scenario for the Bulls and Zach if they want to try to get a deal done this season for Zach LaVine. And that's something that I know a lot of people are going to talk about, the speculative part of it, the possible the the conspiracy around it all, but I want to talk about it from that point as well, because if Zach is legitimately hurt, that's bad. That I'm talking about, that is bad to the point to where you may just not find a deal for Zach LaVine until the offseason. And if that happens, which I still want to make sure that I'm saying is probably the least likely scenario in all of this, but if that is a legit injury, oh man, this is going to get ugly, because the Bulls are then going to have the contract of Zach LaVine, the person of Zach LaVine. I don't want to just call him a contract. It's not like he can't play basketball at all, but you have Zach LaVine now on your team who clearly wants out. You've tried to move on from him. The trade market was already low for him. And then even if you do move it towards the offseason, which typically you get more assets back when you make big deals like that in the offseason, but if it's coming due to injury, that's not going to be good for the outlook of the Chicago Bulls. So best case scenario, they already have a deal in place. The team that they have that deal in place with is basically saying, hey, let's go ahead and sit him. You have a reason outside of the NBA's player protocol, the resting guidelines. You now have that injury in place. You know, they marked it as inflammation in that foot. So, you know, that's something that, you can legitimately sit somebody for that. But Lord have mercy. If it is one of those things to where Zach LaVine is legitimately hurt and it's a major one, that's where stuff starts getting ugly for the Chicago Bulls in their hopes to move Zach LaVine by this year's trade deadline. Now, with that said, Kobe White was asked about Zach being out, and he said this: I think it's given us a lot of confidence. Obviously, with Zach out, being the caliber of player he is, it allows more opportunity. But you can't replace Zach LaVine. We try to do it collectively, and we try to make up for what he does on the floor. And so what is that? What does that mean when you say, they try to do it as a unit, right? They try to do it collectively. And I wanted to go over some of the stats right now for the Chicago Bulls in the 3 games Zach LaVine's been out. Now, I want to make sure that I throw out the caveat to this, that they have not faced the best competition other than that win against the Milwaukee Bucks for sure, right? Which we'll see how they're going to play against us on Monday. We got to get through the San Antonio first. But so other than that, you haven't played against necessarily the best competition. But the raw stats are telling for what this team is. Again, the caveat of we have not been playing the best teams over this 3-game stretch. But over the last 3 games, the Chicago Bulls are averaging 118.3 points per game. That would be good enough for the 7th best offense in the NBA. We're averaging 47.5 field goal shooting percentage in the NBA as a team. That would be good enough for 11th in the NBA over that time if the Bulls did that for a whole season. 3-point shooting percentage. We're shooting the ball 41% from 3-point range. That would be first in the NBA in 3-point shooting percentage. 3-point attempts, we're averaging 34 3-point attempts per game. That would be good enough for 14th in the NBA. And assists, we are averaging 29 assists per game over this stretch, this 3-game winning streak with Zach LaVine out. That would be good enough for 3rd in the NBA. What does that tell you? The Chicago Bulls offense right now, they're doing it collectively. The ball moving around more, the players all kind of getting shots. It's paying off for the Bulls in confidence and in results. Now, am I saying that if you take Zach LaVine away from this team, will they have those numbers for the whole season? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying it to not necessarily to knock Zach LaVine, but to acknowledge how well this team is playing together in this current stretch of the season. They are playing extremely well together and executing in almost in what you can say is elite statistically. Again, you're not playing against the best competition, so you definitely get a little buffer for that in there as well. But those numbers, especially, and the reason why I use the offensive numbers specifically is that Zach LaVine is such an amazing offensive weapon when he gets on and going. To see the Chicago Bulls averaging more assists, more points per game, right? Shooting the ball at a better efficiency from both 3 and from the field in the last 3 games, that's telling for the Chicago Bulls. That's telling for how these young players are stepping up. So in like yesterday's episode, when I asked, can the Chicago Bulls keep winning without Zach LaVine, I can tell you what, if they can keep executing and playing in this manner, hey, that's that. Again, you're not going to do that against every competition. You're not going to have the same results against every level of competition either. But seeing the Bulls play this way, it's really been refreshing to see. It's been refreshing to see the team play in this manner and be able to execute like they have been. This team is playing excellently, and they're doing it as a unit. And so when you look at this, I say like this: when you think of the Bulls front office possibly sitting out Zach LaVine and making that decision of we're just going to go ahead and let Zach sit. When you look at that, that's telling on why the Chicago Bulls may want to see what this team really looks like without Zach LaVine and continue to evaluate the value of these players. The Bulls also, I did give out the offensive numbers, but the Bulls have a defensive rating as a team over the last 3 games of 109.8. Keep in mind, average is 110. They are playing an above average brand of defense, a well than above average statistical output offensively, and that shows that this Chicago Bulls team can get it done. They just got to keep doing it and show that they can do it at a high level. But before we go, we got one voicemail that I want to play because it's so topical to the Zach LaVine news, and I wanted to play this one before anything changes or we get any other news. And Zach LaVine, with him talking to media today, will have an episode out shortly after he talks to media because we kind of just have to. But we got a voicemail from Big O. We're going to go ahead and play that now.
What's the word, Brother Haize? Big O, brother. Appreciate your response in the last couple videos. Great response. Love the dialogue as always. I be trying to fit so many things. I be on my mind when we talking Bulls and listen to you guys' videos. I try to keep it short. But the Zach LaVine trade, with him being put on the shelf for the next few weeks, I definitely agree. I think he made probably 95% chance we've seen the last Zach LaVine in the Bulls uniform. But I think it's a win all across the board. I think it's several reasons why you put him up. You guys stated the obvious ones. You don't want, to risk injury. And if there's a deal in place, that other team probably said, hey, put my product up, man. We don't want no issues messing what we got, messing this up. So I appreciate you y'all wrapping with some bubble wrap and hold on to them, keep them nice and neat for us until we can make that trade official. But secondly, if that ain't the case, in a lot of these deals, it's going to be probably a player or two going with Zach LaVine. I think Andre Drummond is a candidate. I think Jevon Carter is a candidate. In a crazy different scenario, I don't think it's too much out the rim. I think one of the young guys is a candidate to move with Zach LaVine because for what we know, this guy don't want to take. He don't want to be bad. So if he's trying to turn Zach LaVine into a quality, much better, I ain't gonna say a much better player, but somewhere, around the Zach LaVine type of player as far as the level of player, or be a younger player with super high upside, it may cost him a little bit more than Zach LaVine. So in that case, I think one of the young guys possibly could be moved. So by sitting Zach, you get to showcase these guys. Ayo looking good. See, Kobe take his game to another level. Not to say that that's the thinking that they want to move one of these guys, but if it's like a deal you can't refuse where it might cost Zach and something else, one of these young guys, it looks more better. So, these guys get to showcase their game on why they can deserve more minutes and also why they may be a good candidate to get moved with Zach LaVine. But other than that, I think one of the vets obviously going to be moved with Zach LaVine because you're talking about 2 and 3 players coming back. So I think Jevon Carter, in that case, if there's a lot of salary coming back, make his salary with Zach makes sense. And then if it's like a little bit less than salary, Drummond don't make a lot, so you can tag him with Zach LaVine. And in that case, it keeps the salary, the trade, salary a little bit, close.
Hey, Big O, I understand completely what you're saying, right? That Zach LaVine has probably played his last game in the Chicago Bulls jersey. I think that the writing's on the wall for that. If not, the only way that I see that not being the case is if this injury is legit, per what I said in the last segment, and Zach LaVine just can't go. If that ends up being the case and Zach LaVine is legitimately injured, we may see Zach LaVine still be in a Bulls uniform by the end of this season. That's just what I'm going to say there. But yeah, looking at how the young guys are going to continue to play, how they fight for each other, how they compete, how they're running the system that we heard that the Bulls want to get into this season. They are running that play style and being effective at it. Now, last game wasn't so much that against the Charlotte Hornets. Let's hope we can get back on track and get to playing that play style again more consistently and executing it better. But I definitely agree with you. When you everything that you said, that if they do have a deal in place, that team may say, hey, listen, we're basically putting Zach LaVine on layaway. We cannot right now complete this deal per the rules of the NBA. So therefore, can you please sit Zach so that way it doesn't risk him getting hurt? You already know what you're getting back, and the Bulls could be confident in that. Now, we're going to have to wait 3 to 4 weeks to see that actually come and what that deal could be. And I'll say this, if that deal does involve a rookie, then that's going to come back to this and be like, yeah, it was legit. The Bulls did sit Zach LaVine because they had a deal in place. But at the end of the day, the Bulls are making probably the right decision for them, especially if they already have a trade partner with the framework of a deal. And they may be making the best decisions, even though players like Kobe White are saying, hey, we aren't better without Zach LaVine. You want that? They're going to say that. That's their guy, their players. They're going to say that. But it may be best for the development of these young guys to keep going through this stretch of time without Zach LaVine. Let's see what pieces we get back, how they add to the core, if they are more young pieces to add to this. And listen, we'll see what that future may bring for the Chicago Bulls. It may bring about maybe a better future overall for the team. So that's kind of my thought process on it. You guys can let me know what you think, as always, down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.